Remember the day when we looked straight in the face of a winged beast? Is it a poem about the heavens? Maybe it should be about the barren mountains or the desert. Inhuman, we tread in the cold desert over cacti spread like grass. Almost human, we tread lightly upon thorn shrubs scattered across the cool desert like grass at dawn. Orchestration goes in vain. I wasn't going to be able to make poems here when I'd failed elsewhere. So I gave up and put away my writing tools. This landscape was millennia old, with centuries old villages, and in the middle of all of this is a statue, made from cement and bricks. 32 meters in height, it's not ancient. Built only a few decades ago, it stands by an old monastery. These are the caricatures of an idea called Buddhism. An old monk who lived at the edge of the monastic settlement caught my arm as we passed the door. He asked where we were from as the rest of the group went ahead. I rattled off names of cities, and he nodded. The Buddha is not known to have built a single statue, he said. He never worshipped one. He didn't run away from the world to sit on a hill, meditating. The old monk said all this while I nervously backed away from him towards my fellow travelers. The squareness of a monk's shoulders betrays his suspicion that the promise of a future Buddha is indeed untrue. But we missed the point. The statue is not for the faithful. It's for the tourists. The great escapism of our age is no more on the screen of a movie theater. In our age, it's tourism. Plato hated the poets and tragedians. He wished to drive them out of Athens. If he lived today, he'd probably want to drive away travel agents and tourism companies. Always follow the army, they say. The army leads at the cutting edge of finding the current escapism. It needs to sell the nobility and necessity of violence, a hard product to sell. In previous days, films, music, painting, they've all done this job, but the army has moved on to using tourism. In the past, it would have been unthinkable for a civilian to go to a risky front, but in keeping with the great opiate of our age, there are souvenir shops, temples, and photo ops. I decided to put away thoughts of the old monk and enjoy the beauty and bliss of pure nature, the stuff of lonely clouds and daffodils. This is the guy who tells us what to stop for and admire. At one such spot we were stopped, the guiding finger pointing at a block of ice on the face of a hill. We took a close look at the smooth white eyes frozen mid-ooze. It seemed like a huge pus boil, but it was smooth, cold, and sturdy. Someone explained how it had all formed. Water had been flowing off the top of the gorge until one day the sun set, the temperature dipped below freezing, a gale helping the water cool faster, and then in hiccups one after the other, the water froze in mid-fall, all the way down till it locked over into so many pillars. Everyone was to stand facing it, like facing it as if in a postmodern gallery. This was pure beauty, someone said. The old monk threatened to creep into my head again. To avoid the discomfort, I clicked many pictures, went back to my seat, and slept the rest of the way. For centuries, caravans crisscrossed this valley and others. These barren hills and dry sands were not things of beauty to them. Man was up against nature. All this was just rocks, trees, and water. Beautiful only as long as it fed and watered the horses and camels. When thrown into wild nature, unable to find a way to behave with it, friends and familiar faces are among the best sedatives. It was one of the ways to carry along our world and its references along. Music playlists, books, and company makes a foreign land homelike. And the crowning abomination used to make what is unfamiliar conform to our view of the world is the camera. Long ago, travel meant boots, horses, tents, ships. But now travel means a camera. It's next to impossible for someone to finish a full trip without a camera. The Silk Road travelers of old kept the elements and madness at bay by putting up bright flags to remind men on the road of the cities and settlements, of human life. Soon, these flags would be bought by our companions and put up in the middle of their daily desolation, in bedrooms and drawing rooms. Romans of antiquity would travel across barbarian lands they had conquered or had influence over. This is the birth of what was called tourism. The Romans, believing themselves to be the civilized among the barbarians, carried along a tourist caravan to never be far away from civilized comforts of Rome. But things changed after the Reformation. Now, heaven was to come after death, and life was only a ceaseless struggle and pain. This was fine until the idea of God lived. One day God was dead, then the secular socialist state promised heaven in old age and called it retirement. Then the socialist state was dead, and after long mutations and failed utopias of the state, paradise had to be found at regular intervals in material life, and modern travel was born. A person worked, slaved, and sinned, all till the next vacation. Vacations are modern heavens on earth, the ultimate utopian artifice. But of course, the eye is not easily fooled. So came the camera. This world is clearly made for us. We need no holy book to tell us that. For the purpose of this consumption, careful craft is needed. These are not wild camels. None of its riders are Silk Route merchants. None of us could tame one or put a harness on one. And yet here we were. This would make for great pictures and tweets.
डालेंगे बाद में एक अंकल
लेकिन मिल तो जा रहा वो तो पूरी वो भी घुसा दो पत्थर है नीचे आराम से लगता है ये मुझे
We set up camp in the farm grounds of a local family who were to be our hosts. The hosts went about preparing what could pass for an authentic tourist experience. We decided on a game of football in the meanwhile. Travel offers the escape to a role reversal, where the tourist is the audience arrogating the position of judge to himself, towards everything he sees. There's great premium on so-called authentic experiences, where a set of locals are made to play dress up for the foreigners. In exchange, the foreigners must praise the pure lives of the rural folk among themselves, and the rural folk must play along. Inane questions about local life popped out from among the tourists every now and then. The old man of the house had lived a full life. He had been saddened by the changes wrought by recently drawn international borders, the death of his traditions, and he spoke about it in a rehearsed way as old people do, having repeated the stories numerous times. Like in any good commercial escapism, tourists have to be constantly entertained by the travels they're consuming. The locals bring out stories and tales to feed the fun.
जो सुनौली पट सुता है ना उसी वो जैसा पहाड़ है बोलते हैं वो पहाड़
अच्छा अच्छा
उस पे गुम्फा बनाया तो उसका नाम इसका नाम स्तकमो ऐसा रख दिया
अच्छा मो मतलब माउंटेन
हाँ स्तकमो मतलब हो गया
ठीक है क्या ये पोर्चुगीज भाषा के लिए दिया
अच्छा
हाँ
कहाँ की भाषा के लिए गए मतलब
ये
उसको
पोर्चुगीज भाषा के
नेशनल
लिए मान्यता
लैंग्वेज
के लिए।
बनाने के लिए
अच्छा
उसका बोलती भाषा और दूसरा बता रहे थे
और तिब्बत की आज़ादी के लिए गया
अच्छा
हाँ
तो एक ग्रुप के साथ गए थे आप
हाँ ग्रुप के साथ
अच्छा जी
तो भोटी भाषा के लिए मतलब क्या किया आपने?
अरे
कहाँ किया? कुछ नहीं किया।
नहीं मतलब कैसे फिर आप सब जगह गए?
तो मतलब आप बैनर लेके गए,
बैनर लेके गया, जगह जगह आदमी जमा
बहुत तरह
करते
किया ना उन्होंने।
पाँच तरह किया। गुजरात से एक दफा गुजरात से दिल्ली तक 2 महीना चला।
अच्छा।
एक दफा हम बुद्ध गया से दिल्ली तक 40 दिन चला, बिल्कुल पैदल।
अच्छा, ये कब की बात है सर?
Let me go to Bangalore.
The old man said that he was very happy about his granddaughter being educated in a faraway city. He hoped that his children would not have to end up becoming showpieces for foreigners in the lap of poverty. A view of the city here is a bit like a joke on the tourists. The locals are grasping for prosperity desperately, building fast and loose, on every inch of space and with every last rupee earned, while the tourists come and praise them for being so far removed from the so-called pollutions of modernity and capital. It reminded me of the star anthropologist Margaret Mead, who wrote a book about the sexual liberation and the wisdom of the indigenous Samoans. Years later, when another anthropologist spoke to the same women Mead had interviewed for her book, the girls told him that, embarrassed and offended by Mead's constant questions about sex, a taboo topic in Samoa, the two decided to play on Mead what they thought would be a harmless joke. This, in sum, is the truth about paradises we create. This great art of our age has rendered the whole world into a stage, telling us that truth is elsewhere in some special place that we must consume every now and then.
यहाँ से लद्दाख वाला बहुत गर्मी में उधर जाता है, दिल्ली जाता है, बुद्ध गया जाता है, दर्शन के लिए जाता है ना, इसलिए घूम जाता है। तो सेट वाला जिसके पास पैसा बहुत है।
Most so-called travelers do not go back home and change their lives. Most don't start consuming less conspicuously. Indeed, the opposite.
आजकल लद्दाख में तो पैसा ही पैसा है।
हाँ? कैसे? मतलब टूरिज्म?
गवर्नमेंट का फौजी की मेहरबानी है ना।
अच्छा।
ये बॉर्डर लगता है ना, पूरा एरिया बॉर्डर लगता है, चाइना से लेकर पाकिस्तान तक उधर।
Humanity's great achievement has been the city, not the mountains. The old man had hoped that his children wouldn't end up as peasants or as professional hosts.
फिर यहाँ से एक घर से 2 फौजी है। मेरा एक पोता उधर ठीक से वो फौजी है।
We clicked more pictures, bought more souvenirs, and got back home.